We are up and running. Hello, everyone out there. Thank you so much for coming to our event tonight called the Caribbean Vote. Caribbean Americans have had such a great impact on our culture. And so we are using tonight to just talk to some of our local leaders as well as a Caribbean Congresswoman to just see what their thoughts are and what's important to them as Americans. So this is a very chill, laid back event. I am actually going to do something a little different. I'm going to let everyone introduce themselves. So I am going to go around to everybody. I'm going to start with Lador. Could you do an intro?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I just have to be in touch with my roots and I have to say big up. Big up to all the Islanders. Big up, big up, big up. I am over here enjoying myself. I am pretending right now that I have, no. I don't even need one punch. I think I'm more into sorrow mode right now.
Yes, sorrow, yes.
That's what I'm feeling right now. I'm just so happy. You have the Bob Marley playing in the background. Yes. I am vibing over here. Do you hear me? No vibe. This is a bashment, okay? So I just want to say I'm so happy that you did this. I mean, you are brilliant. Oh my gosh, young Democrats, stand up. Brilliant to be able to have this conversation. We've spoken about so many different issues and groups of people and everything from their political to their background. But when you think about it, this culture and this whole Islander and Caribbean is so much for the first time highlighted in this election, almost like no other because of Kamala. You know that, like, so it really brought attention to the so-called how a lot of times how the Republicans want to say other, and I'm just, our votes and our mentality and the things that we want, they're important because who would have thought? I mean, I was born in Kingston, Jamaica. And I came over to the US when I was 2 years old. So I was a baby. So I'm considered almost that first generation American. And it's, when you look back at all the issues that we're talking right now, when it comes to policy and immigration and things like that, I do not forget, I am an immigrant. My family came to the US, New York, Brooklyn, and then Florida, just like the same patterns usually go, for a better life for us. This is supposed to be our home. Yes. We were embraced. This is one of those things. And now you have certain people in office that basically talks about shithole countries. I mean, why? This is crazy. Like, really? The way he spoke about Haiti and African descendant countries and things like that. So, I mean, it's a lot to unpack today. I'm so excited. And I just want to let you know, we are in for the long haul when it comes to everything that's going on now, especially as an advocate in Sandy Springs. And that sometimes you look around and people are like, oh, well, in Sandy Springs, no, in Sandy Springs, it is people don't understand. It's 40% non-white in Sandy Springs. I mean, there's Roswell Road. There's so many Hispanics. There's so many Indians. There's so many, we have a Caribbean, Chef Rob, big up, restaurant that is celebrated here. So I just want to introduce myself and I'm an activist here in Sandy Springs and here in Georgia. And listen, we are pounding the pavement and we're making sure that Caribbean voices are heard as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lador. Now I'm going to turn it to Patricia. Can you tell us about you and all the great things that you are doing?
Okay, so I'm Patricia Henry. I'm the president of the official Atlantic Caribbean Carnival. So, like she said, we're immigrants and we come here. I was born in Antigua. I left Antigua to New York, and then now I'm in Atlanta. So I fight hard for the Caribbean community because we vote just like everyone else. And sometimes we get treated differently because I get a lot of complaints. Oh, why we can't do this? Why we can't do that? So this forum is very good because doing carnival in the city of Atlanta is sometimes it's even so hard to even get a meeting with the mayor. I feel like we should be treated just like everyone else. If we want to get on the calendar, meet the mayor, it always has to go back to the census. So that's why we encourage a lot of Caribbean people to fill out that census, because if you don't fill it out, we don't have a voice, and our votes don't really count because they go according to the census. So I'm big on fighting for the Caribbean community.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. And now we are going to have John Jackson tell us about you and what you're doing.
Hello, I'm John Jackson, and I'm the chair of DeKalb County Democrats. And DeKalb County has not just the largest West Indian population in Georgia, but the largest West Indian population in the region, and definitely top 5 in the country for West Indian populations, right up there with Washington, D.C. and New York City and Boston and Los Angeles and South Florida as well. So very proud to be a community leader with such a rich, diverse group of people, and a lot of that rich, diverse group is the West Indian community, and you can see it all over DeKalb County, from the north side to southwest to the east side to the city of Atlanta portion of DeKalb. The West Indian population has a great influence, and I just want them to know, as their county party chair, that your voice is valued, your voice is needed, and you are just a real jewel to our beautiful county.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much. So as they have stated, the Caribbean culture is very big here in Atlanta. And actually it's even bigger in DeKalb County. So I am actually going to read off a couple of stats real quick, if you guys can bear with me. Where are these stats at? I have them right here in front of me. And as John said, we really do have lots and lots. So DeKalb County is home to the largest population of English-speaking Caribbean Americans in Metro Atlanta, followed by Cobb County, and this includes the Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, and Guyana. DeKalb County is home to 50% of all of the region's Caribbean population and 43% of Georgia's Caribbean population. So that's pretty huge, right? I mean, so pretty much 50% of the folks who have a Caribbean heritage in this entire state are right here in DeKalb County. So we should be very, very proud. And then after that, it's followed by Cobb County. So I think that these are very, very important stats. As we wait on our amazing Congresswoman to come, we're just going to jump right into these questions. We're just going to have fun. We're going to chill. And we're just gonna go for it. So let's see what we'll do. Hold on one moment.
Okay, Jacinda, can you my video?
I'm gonna start with Lador. Tell me, girl, what is the Caribbean vote? What does that even mean?
Let me tell you exactly what that means.
I can't hear you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So the Caribbean vote is the vote of not only first generation, but second and third as well. It's the vote of grandparents. It's the vote of people who just come from a different culture, a different world. And let me tell you why this is so important. They understand when you're an immigrant, you understand that you are here. And you understand that you're in a place that your family or you yourself, you weren't just born here. You were, I'm here and I could take that for granted. No. When I came to the US, trust and believe, there was a whole lot of us in the house, okay? No one had their own room. We didn't have those kind of delicacies. We were first generation. We were coming to get established. We were coming to have a new life. So, these are the type of things, this vote is a vote that you cannot take for granted. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people think, oh, okay, I guess all all immigrants necessarily have the same views that everyone, that's not the case. This vote is specific and it's detailed as well. You know, I am a mother. And I understand that we don't take things for granted. And when there's certain issues that come up for me, I understand a lot of the things that are going through immigration, because I am an immigrant, through being a woman of color, because I'm a woman of color, through being I mean, there's so many different layers. So, I mean, this vote is one of those things that I think is one of the hidden gems. People don't understand that we come out here with passion, because now we're at a place that we choose to be, or we knew that our parents fought for us to be here, cleaned for us to be here, cooked for us to be here. It didn't come easy. So, you know, it's one of those, I think what I would call it if I would just have a title for it, I think it's the vote of passion. It's the vote of, yeah, I'm going to call it the vote of passion.
The vote of passion. I love that. I love that. All right, John Jackson, what is the Caribbean vote to you? What does that mean? What is that?
The Caribbean American vote embodies the American dream and patriotism in this country.
Right.
When I think of Caribbean Americans, I think of Harry Belafonte, who served his country in World War II, a Jamaican American. I think of Stokely Carmichael, one of the forefront leaders in the civil rights movement when it comes to Black liberation. I think of Marcus Garvey, another civil rights leader.
Yeah.
You know, the American civil rights movement is full of West Indian people of West Indian heritage. And I think of one of our nation's most revered four-star generals. I think of General Colin Powell.
Wow.
And I think of people who work very hard to achieve an American dream, but do it with their own flavor. And so I think that when I think of the West Indian community, I think of people who inspire the American dream. And to me, if you speak to people of Caribbean heritage, you want to speak to them about achieving the American dream.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Great words. All right, Patricia, you are up. Tell us, what is the Caribbean vote to you? What does it mean?
It means a lot to me because, you know, what happened this year with COVID-19 and, you know, all the stuff that happened, it's very important that we as Caribbean people go out and vote. Especially now we have Kamala Harris, who is of Jamaican descent. Give us more reason to vote, because our votes do count, and we need to encourage everyone to go out and vote, no matter what. Our life depends on it more than ever this year. Since my children could vote, I was at the polls with them every single election.
Wow.
And I already with them last Saturday, and we all voted together. So parents, take your kids, go out and vote. Go out and vote, and make sure you are standing in line. It doesn't matter how long it is, because your life depends on it. Immigration is our biggest issue. Today, I read that they were trying to stop international students, the B1, the K1B1 visa, the lottery. They were trying to get rid of that. And we know we have children in the Caribbean, people that come here and study. And so we need to fight for that so that we can have our Caribbean family come here and go to colleges and study, because we make a big impact here, believe it or not.
Right. Exactly. I love that. And then we have, actually, you know what? I'll make a quick pause. Could everyone look at their live feed? Is everyone seeing themselves as well? Or are you guys only seeing me in this live feed on your Facebook?
But I don't know what's the Facebook link. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you know what? We're gonna keep on flowing. We're gonna keep on going, and we will figure this out in the process. I believe that we just got Diijon DaCosta in the house. Hey, Diijon.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. We just started, so give us a brief intro about you, as well as tell us what is the Caribbean vote mean to you. But first, just start off with just telling us about you.
All right. First, I would like to thank you all for having me, and all of you all that represents the Caribbean life, the Caribbean world. Much respect to you all. I'm currently multitasking, so if I'm kind of looking away, I'm trying to kill two birds with one stone. But my name is Diijon DaCosta, and I serve as the youngest board member for the DeKalb County School District here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. which is a large, diverse atmosphere and community, and a strong representation of the Caribbean residents. It's not too much about me right now, but the Caribbean votes really, it matters because, you know, you think about education is number one. You know, I have family and relatives that are currently in Kingston, Jamaica right now, and are still trying to get their visas and is still trying to, you know, become residents of the I'm sorry, not the but of the state of Georgia and the United States. So with that all being on the ballot, you know, with the current administration trying to, you know, cut off the wings for, you know, immigrants to become citizens and to become legalized here in the United States, that's important to us. You know, the climate right now, because we know that, you know, that we eat the way that we eat, the way our lifestyle is, you know, it's more natural and, you know, root food and things of that nature. So if we can understand how climate change and global warming affects all of these things, and that's on the ballot, right? So it's a lot of different things that definitely affects the community, but I'll go ahead and shut my mouth right now.
Those are excellent words. I mean, we really appreciate those. And from there, I'll meet you from there. Awesome. And then from there, I'm going to ask you guys, do you find that some Caribbean Americans have different experiences based upon their country of origin? Who wants to go first? Who wants to go? I'm going to have Patricia go because I saw you talk about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, they do. And for example, it depends on where they grew up, where they were raised, the type of environment that they're around. They could have like different experience, because sometimes folks would tell you the problems that they had, what they go through, and you never experienced something like that. So they do have different experiences when it comes to that.
Okay. Lador, your thoughts?
Okay. No, definitely. I think I agree with Pat. Like, depending on where you're from, you will have a different experience. I think a lot of times, especially from my family, we have a lot of people in Florida. We are a mixed family with Jamaican and Puerto Rican, and I always say my big fat Jamaican and Puerto Rican family, which is you know, everyone is second generation, so everyone knows how to speak English. But can you imagine also coming here with having to also a lot of times learn to speak fluently in English, and then you're up against so many different, I mean, it's just one of those things where I think that depending on where you're from, you definitely will have a different type of experience. You know, I was raised in South Florida, so it was lots of Caribbean. I was always raised around, from Haiti to, you know, there's Haitians to all, you know, to all the Trini, and, you know, our food's different to a certain extent. You know, our experience is definitely going to be a little bit different, but depending on where your background, your education, your class. Oh, yes, definitely. And I just have to say one more thing too, because John spoke about a lot of people, but I don't want to, you know, also that Susan Wright was on the short list to also be considered VP as well. Wow. You know that, right? Wow. And she is also Jamaican. I mean, he's just, you know, he was right. There's so many people who invested so much into this country. But yes, the experience is definitely different, depending on where you come from. It's like you can't paint it with one big brush. But yeah, and I think what we have in common, it's an adjustment, and it's not a struggle, to say the least. It's definitely, definitely an adjustment.
Okay. Yep. Good words. John Jackson, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I would say that's definitely true. Before I go into my spiel, I can't forget to recognize the first Black Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder, who is of Barbadian heritage. So, and he did some great work as far as criminal justice reform in the Obama administration. So, Eric Holder, everyone. But I would say yes. I think about a brilliant man I went to graduate school with, who I studied economics with, who was of Haitian heritage. His name was Cliff, and he moved back to Haiti with the intent to run for office. But he shared with me just some of the struggles of the Haitian people. And most recently, they experience violent racism from their lighter skinned cousins in the Dominican Republic. They share an island together, but there's been a hostile, troubling history between their cousins on the other side of the island. And I say cousins because they literally are related, you know, in there, but there is some intense bigotry. I won't say racism because they're both sides are Black, but there's some intense bigotry and colorism that Dominican people have showed towards Haitians. And then he shared with me, he educated me about the struggles that Haitians face in South Florida, being treated different by the immigration system than white Cubans, than immigrants of lighter complexion, and that they have struggles with ICE and the, just the immigration system in general. Haitians have had challenges, but clearly through him and the resilient Haitian community that I've met, they push forward and they show that same spirit of patriotism and hard work, and just really just pushing forward. And the history of the Haitian people is just beautiful because they revolted from the French and freed themselves via revolt led by the Honorable Toussaint Louverture. So while the Haitians do have their unique struggle, I recognize they have a unique strength too. So I just had to shine some light on the Haitian American community. Much love.
I love that. I love that. Very good words and good history too. I want to introduce Wayne Hall. He has just entered the room. Hi, Wayne. How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. Very good. Happy to be here.
We can't hear you.
You still can't hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well.
Okay. Very good. I'm happy to be here. Sorry I'm late.
No problem, no problem. So before we introduce our Congresswoman, we would love to just hear some about you. Tell us about you, and then after that, tell us what is the Caribbean vote to you?
Okay, so I am originally from Jamaica, lived in New York for 10 years, then moved to Lawrenceville, Georgia, 15 years and counting. I am a special education teacher. I teach in Snellville, and I also host a Caribbean radio show, the Wayne Hall Show, and cover just a variety of stuff in the community, cultural, information, whatever it is that's just good for us. As far as the Caribbean vote is concerned, I think it's crucial. The Caribbean community, in a very probably yet to be confirmed way, has a lot of numbers in our region. And if we should all, as a Caribbean community, if our diaspora really turns out and votes, I think it can actually help to sway the vote. And so I think it's very important. I don't know how much we participate, because in a lot of ways, we probably feel like we're so under the radar, but if we could just address that reluctance, it would be great, because I do think we have the strength in the numbers we bring.
I agree. So then on that same note, I'm going to ask you this other question that we ask everyone, which is, do you find that some Caribbean Americans have different experiences based on their country of origin?
That is quite possible.
Okay.
Think about the different dynamics, the different socio-political climates that we grew up in the islands. One Caribbean, but, and we're just surrounded by that water, but at the same time, there can be, little differences
Okay.
in our interpretation of things like politics and even the very culture we're a part of. So I do think, if you're from one island, it can impact your interpretation of what you think the political process should be. And so then when you get here, depending on what that upbringing might be, you might be more motivated to participate or just, like I said, stay under the radar. For instance, in Jamaica has a very active democracy. That every 4 years, literally, you can, like clockwork. And, the involvement in the process, is very, for the most part, very active. And so I tend to find that some are more inclined to even try to run for office here, whereas some others are less eager to do so. But I do think each island impacts.
Right. Okay, yeah. Well, I totally agree. And as we continue to wait for our amazing guests, we're just going to keep going with the questions. So here's the next one. Overall, I think for the most part, we do find that most Caribbean Americans are successful in this country as entrepreneurs, tradespersons, nurses, doctors, lawyers. However, some are apathetic about voting. Would you agree with that? And do you find that as people are more successful, they become more apathetic about voting? And then lastly, but I'm going to ask you these in small segments, but the last one would be, our first and second generation Americans more fearful about the voting process. So let's start really with the apathy. Do you find that there is some apathy within the Caribbean American community about voting? And I'll start with Lador.
Yeah, this one, this question is definitely interesting because there's so many pieces to break down with it. It's like an onion. I think that I don't know if it was Wayne or Pat that really spoke about feeling included. But a lot of times we don't necessarily feel we're included because we're not necessarily treated. I think that the whole entire, there was an issue at one time saying, well, people would say that Caribbeans aren't Black. They're Caribbean. That was a talk, and I just think that a lot of time that we don't necessarily feel as if we have a say. It's almost like we're visitors, to a certain extent. It almost makes us feel as if we're guests. Yeah. Especially when, the rhetoric could be, go back to where you came from if you're not happy the way in which, things go here. Go back to your country.
Right.
I mean, I know, African Americans go through an absolute lot, but then we have that on top of it. Go back. If you don't like what, go back to your country. I remember being, it was. I do think it's one of those things where it's a mixture of not feeling like you are a part of this country. Okay. No one necessarily speaks directly, I think, to like how this event is catered towards, let's talk about the Caribbean vote, things like that. They don't, it's not really, I don't think that we get that type of call. You don't get that type of embrace. A lot of times you automatically just face value. This is what you do. All you guys are all together, throw you in a boat and call it a day type thing. So I just think that we also, we're human and we feel it sometime as well, that we don't necessarily feel as if it's our place to a certain extent. We don't necessarily, so it's one of those type of.
And you know what? I actually would agree on that point. I think that one of the cool things about these days is we are starting to, we always knew that there's not just one kind of Black, you know what I mean? That there's not one kind of, brown skin. We always knew that there is a very clear difference in culture, very clear difference in lifestyle, very clear differences. And I do think that as our country gets more progressive and more inclusive, and really just, really just takes for face value the people that add so much to this country. And definitely by having her in office, I think that we will have a time period where we will get to really hone in on the different types of Black folks. You have Nigerians,
Right.
and you have Jamaicans, and you have all different kinds. So I totally agree on that. Wayne, your thoughts?
I think that we have to look at when, how are we when we arrive here? There's an expectation. And depending on how it is presented to you on the island, you do come here with an expectation. And then the reality is you run into what can be a culture shock. And I think the impact of both the expectation meeting with the culture shock can result in someone easily feeling like they're not themselves, they're not where they're from, this is not my home, this is so different, it's not what I expected. I guess I'll just work and build up myself to go back where I came from and all that. And that attitude can transcend into the apathy you're talking about. Because if you feel like it's not yours, it's not your place, it's not, you're just passing through, you're just here to get some money, or you're just here to, it can influence that feeling. However, I do think there's also the fact that when you get here, there's a process to becoming, say, a citizen that will allow you the ability to vote. And, processes and the mechanics that are in place that you have to go through can sometimes be a deterrent. And so I feel like the energy is there. It's the circumstances. It's how can you get folks who are coming here with an expectation, running into a totally different world,
Right.
to accept it, to embrace it, to treat it like they would back home, run out, do the things you do, feel like it's yours, own it. I think that's the challenge.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So on that note, we have our esteemed Congresswoman. She is here. I'm going to do a small intro, and then we will let her talk and speak to all of the amazing Caribbean Americans that will be watching this video. So Miss Stacey, Congresswoman Stacey E. Plaskett, represents the U.S. Virgin Islands at large congressional district in the USA House of Representatives. Stacey currently serves on the House of Transportation and Infrastructure Committee and the House Committee on Agriculture. That's awesome. She is also a member of the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, where she serves as ranking member on the subcommittee on the Interior, Energy, and Environment. Oh, I love all the things that she does. So welcome, 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 Stacey. How are you?
I'm great. Good evening, Caribbean Massive. Hey, everybody.
Hello. You look so awesome. We are so happy to have you.
Thanks so much. I'm so happy to be here. We have such a tremendous community in Georgia, and I'm so glad that you guys are fired up, that are engaged, and really just making sure that we are represented and that people know who we are. I think that, Caribbean people are very complex. Our issues are not so clear cut as people would have us believe. We represent different islands with different issues, different sizes, different demographics. We're in different stages of our evolution, which means that, our needs are different. And when we come to the United States, we've done it in different ways, whether it's through purchase, like the Virgin Islands, or immigration, or, fleeing natural disasters and persecution. And all of that informs who we become when we're part of this American experience. But one of the things that I always remind people is that one of the thing that makes America great is that continual evolution, Americanism, which has been the beginnings and created the innovations that we have, are based on our ability to take in new people, to take in new cultures, to adapt and move and morph into a different type of America. And I think the Caribbean people are at the forefront of that. You know, what was really interesting and that we're having this discussion is, I don't know if many of you saw a couple of weeks ago that the Honorable Mia Mottley did a speech about the small island mentality, and you know, you're from a small island, and how does that make you feel as not being a part of the global complexity. And interestingly, you know, my parents came to New York in the 1950s, and so I was born a New Yorker. I always tell people I was born on the largest Caribbean island, which is Brooklyn. And that then afforded me a different sense of being a Caribbean person in the United States, that we are part of the change. And I think that Georgia has done that as well. You all are now the new generation of what was once upon a time. You know, I'm looking for you guys to kind of rival New York in terms of their Labor Day parade when you guys have your own Caribbean events, because you are what's shaping Georgia to be what it is. And I'm really excited to see how you guys are going to turn Georgia blue.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Do you have time for one question from each of our panelists?
I would love that.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just go for it. I feel like Wayne has a great question for you to the Congresswoman. He is a local radio host here, and he has origins from Jamaica.
Okay, so my question would be in line with the conversation prior to your arrival too, is how would it be possible to influence a greater feeling of ownership for Caribbean Americans in terms of policy making? We are often under the radar. We just about that paycheck. We're just about what we can send home, taking care of the family, and whatever else. But in terms of owning this, you know, taking ownership and being a part of the decision making that eventually comes around to affect us, you know, how can policy making help to make that a better, you know, more achievable part
Let me say two things. One is that I don't agree that Caribbean people are apathetic when it comes to politics. Mm-hmm. I think that we are very political. I think that the Democratic Party and politics in America is just done differently and is done in a way that we are not used to. We are used to much more hands-on politics, actually seeing and touching our politicians. And, you know, that's not something that's necessarily done very well by the Democratic Party. And I think one of the things that I've been really grateful, particularly in the Biden campaign, is that they have been listening to how do we reach different people different ways. Mm-hmm. Caribbean people want to be engaged, and, you know, our politics is rough and tumble. Our politics is, you know, I as a politician know I have to ask everybody for their vote. I got to come to them and ask them for their vote. And they get to cuss me out because I didn't do what they didn't like. They get to tell me what I should be doing, tell me why my decisions weren't right. And I think that that's what we need to, what Caribbean people who are living here are looking for, are yearning for. Souls to the polls is not something that we're used to. That's not how we do politics. We don't have somebody come and speak in large churches and then that's it. We need to be able to touch you and engage with you. But how do we get engaged? And Wayne, I think that's an incredible question, because this is something I've been talking to my own community, the Virgin Islands diaspora in the United States, about, is how do we move from being culturally organized and socially organized to become politically organized. In the early part of our immigration and our being part of the United States, we have to band together to maintain culture, to maintain our history, teaching our children our ways, our foods, our history. But I think what we have not learned how to do yet, and I'm hoping what the jump off of some of this is is that we as a group be engaged in political calls of action.
Right.
To say, okay, Jamaican community, Haitian community, Guyanese, what are the 4 issues that Congress is going to take up in the next 2 years that are going to affect those of us that are in the diaspora, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's education, or affect us back home, whether it's remittances, issues of banking, issues of trade. Let me tell you, Wayne, as a member of Congress, if 50 people call my office about the same issue, you can believe someone is going to be assigned to look into that and potentially sign on to a bill that's related to what those 50 people called our office about or wrote a letter. If Caribbean people would do that, we could see tremendous changes in the political landscape for ourselves. And that's not to say that we haven't done it before, because the civil rights movement would never have happened but for Caribbean people. I served with John Lewis, loved Jim Clyburn, love all of the, the people that we talk about with the civil rights movement. But if there was not a Harry Belafonte who was brokering the conversations with the White House, if there was not a Stokely Carmichael to talk about the clash of, if you don't deal with a Martin, you're gonna have to deal with me. If there was not a Malcolm X, whose family was from the Caribbean, if there was not that, there would not have been the movement that there is in the civil rights movement. And you can go forward before and before and before. And I think we, as Caribbean people living in America, we need to embrace that and ensure that African Americans do not forget that.
I love that. That is such a good point. Yeah, I mean, excellent point. I love that. I love that. Okay, Lador, what question do you have for our esteemed Congresswoman?
Hello, Congresswoman. Oh my goodness, I'm just so excited to have you here, Stacey.
I'm glad to be with you, sister.
How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm
Good.
fired up. I'm ready for Tuesday.
Woo! I'm fired up. Okay, so my question is this.
To shock the nation.
Oh my gosh. Oh, we are ready. We are ready. We're ready and we're excited and we are fired up.
Yeah. What? Right?
Exactly. I wanted to ask you, we speak a lot about how the Democratic Party has basically taken the whole Black woman vote for granted. We speak about those type of issues, but I wanted to also ask you, do you also think at the end of the day, because the women in my family have been a part of the community, and that's what made me an activist. That's what made me run for office. I was under very strong, my father, ran for office in Jamaica. So, I mean, I think, like you said, we are very political people. Yes, it is different. But what would you tell community leaders, politicians, activists, all these other people who are basically outreaching to say, guess what? I need you to also make sure that you are catering and reaching out to the Caribbeans as well, because their vote is very, very important. What would your advice be to people like that? What would you tell these activists, these advocates, these leaders, these community, what's your advice? What would you say to them to let them know,
So are you talking about activists who are Caribbean or those who are trying to engage?
To engage.
Okay. I am constantly trying to let them know and reminding them of our numbers, right? The number of Caribbean people who are in particular demographics, like, oh, you didn't win that seat? Well, did you know that there are these number of Caribbean people who are in that area? And if you had engaged with them specifically, you might have won.
Yep.
Or to say, oh, you're on Black radio. Do you know Black radio is not necessarily Caribbean radio? We don't always listen to the same thing, right, Wayne? And making sure that they are outreaching and doing it from authentically how that group wants to hear it. But I think the numbers are what they are looking at. And also to recognize that, listen, while we are concerned with TPS, temporary protective status, and we're concerned with immigration, as Caribbean people, we came here with a purpose, and we're interested in wealth creation. We're interested in entrepreneurship. We're interested in, in home ownership. Those are the primary vehicles that Caribbean people are using to grow and be a part of this country. When you look at professional class, it's us. And that's what I'm constantly reminding them, that those are the bread and butter, the same bread and butter issues that you are reaching people in white suburban areas, in Iowa, outside of Philadelphia. That's how you're going to get Caribbean people. Those are the things that we want to hear about as well.
Totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. I mean, so my dad, he is from Jamaica. He came here on a scholarship for soccer, and and then from there he started his own business, and he got married, and then had a big family. But all of my other cousins and all of them, they are entrepreneurs, and
Right.
so entrepreneurship, business ownership is a big part of it. I mean, even if they are doctors or they are lawyers, they oftentimes have their own practice after a while.
Yes.
So I totally agree. So my question is, if there was a piece of policy or just something that could be introduced that could help with entrepreneurship for those that are from the islands in America, what could that be?
Well, one of the things that I think people really need to look at in the Biden-Harris platform is their notion of wealth creation in the Black community. And they are very, very intentional and very, very specific about how to grow small businesses, about how to create home ownership, putting markers. We want this number of new homeowners in the Black community, that we want to, for individuals who are making less than $125,000, to forgive those student loans for individuals within there, because we know that removing that barrier of having to pay that student loan allows individuals to take risk, to start new businesses. And I think that is a platform that they have really been very focused on, that speaks exactly to where Caribbean people are and the needs and what we want for ourselves and for our children moving forward.
I love that. All right, John Jackson, do you have a question for our esteemed Congresswoman?
Hey, John Jackson.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good.
Oh, great. So in a lot of states tonight, we have early voting ending, and we have a few states that may have some early voting over the weekends, but here in Georgia, it ended today, and so you have one more chance to vote if you haven't voted, and that's going to be on Election Day, November 3rd. What is your message to those who might be on the fence about voting? What is your message to those who might be on the fence about voting? Because we know in 2016, which this won't be the case this time, but we still have to reach those apathetic voters.
We do.
It won't be the case this time, but in 2016, the largest block of voters were not the folks who voted for Hillary or voted for Trump. It was the folks who did not vote. That is a big part of what got us here. So over the weekends when people are phone banking and people are, doing drive-by events and texting folks, what is the pitch that we're going to make, particularly to the perhaps, because there's apathetic voters in every community, oftentimes younger people.
Right.
That young, let's say, Jamaican American or Haitian American person, what's the pitch to them?
Well, my pitch to them is that every vote matters, and the cumulative effect of these votes turn elections. Elections have consequences. And we've seen that in these last 3 years, 4 years, that they should be thinking about. You know, I am not one who always talks about why they should be voting against Donald Trump. But what they should be thinking about is what has been the effect of the Trump presidency. What has been the effect of that on on income levels, you know, the stagnation of income levels, the rise of hate, the rise of white nationalism, the rise of white supremacists in this country who feel comfortable in his administration and through his rhetoric and through his own attorney general, who refuses to go after instances that we know in which Black lives are at risk or have been snuffed out. There's also issues related to their own growth. You know, let's not talk about what isn't there, but what can be there. I know that a lot of times we feel like nothing is happening and change isn't occurring, but there are some amazing policies that those of us who are in Congress, those of us who look like you, are gonna hold this administration to that they've said. Things that are gonna create new avenues for growth in terms of small businesses, in terms of vocational, in terms of reducing student debt. I know young Black people are concerned about that, and that's an instance where we're going to be working for them. Listen, we're not asking you to marry the person that you're voting for. You don't have to live with them. They ain't supposed to be your best friend, but they are supposed to be your elected official who is gonna get your life better and get you across the line. And I can guarantee you that the Biden-Harris ticket is going to do that. There are so many of us who have seen them working intimately. I know Kamala Harris. I have talked with her, I've eaten with her, sat with her, and understand that, you know, while there may have been some things in her past that we don't like or you do not agree with, that there are things that she is doing today and has done yesterday that are supportive of the Black community and will continue to do so. And if you don't vote, then you have no excuse for what happens after that. And that it is not just you that you are voting for, you're voting for your grandparents. You're voting for your grandparents whose healthcare is on the line in this election. You're voting for your fathers and your mothers and their job security. You're voting for student loans for yourself or your friends who are in school. And you're voting, even if you don't have them now, you're voting for your children and the kind of democracy and the kind of country that we live in, because that very structure is on the line in this election.
I love that. I love that. And so now we have just one more question for you. We're going to have it from Patricia. Hi, Patricia. What is your question?
Hi, Patricia.
How are you?
Good, good.
Patricia Henry, and I'm the president of the official Atlantic Caribbean Carnival. This year,
and where's that accent from?
Antigua.
My Antigua sister, okay.
And this year I put together a Black Lives Movement march to show that the Caribbean community supports Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
As the president of Atlantic Caribbean Carnival, a lot of times we've been doing this in the city of Atlanta for 33 years, but we feel that we're not treated the way we should be treated. So I know you represent United States Virgin Islands, and they come to you a lot. How can the other Caribbean communities come to you for assistance? So I want to know that, because sometimes we have issues and we feel like we have no representation.
Patricia, I am the representative for the Caribbean. I'm your Congresswoman. Just believe that.
I love that.
You know, listen, I am the only member of Congress who represents a place that's in the English-speaking Caribbean, right? I understand what you're all going through. I had the enormous honor in 2019 to speak at the Heads of State CARICOM convening in St. Lucia, where I met with all of the prime ministers. It was a fantastic discussion. We spent several days together discussing issues. I talked about resilience. I heard from them and what their issues were, took those back to Washington, and then several months later invited them. They came and we walked the halls of Congress together, really fought for the issues that they think are important, whether it's remittances and trade, whether it's TPS and other immigration issues. And so, listen, you have me. You can always call our office, but I know that, listen, we are growing, you know. Right. The Caribbean members of Congress are growing. You have, of course, Congress, my good sister, my sweet sister, my soror, Yvette Clarke of Brooklyn. But then there's also members that you wouldn't necessarily think about. Sheila Jackson Lee, who represents Houston, whose family is from Panama by way of Jamaica. You have Anthony Brown, who had been the Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, whose dad is from Jamaica. You have Donald McEachin, who represents Virginia, whose family is from St. Kitts. You have Stephen Horsford, who represents Las Vegas, Nevada, who is a Trini Massive. You have Frederica Wilson, who represents Miami, whose family is from the Bahamas. I mean, we're there.
Yes.
And we're willing to support. Who I miss, we've got Adriano Espiat from New York, whose family, who is himself born in the Dominican Republic. So there are so many members of Caribbean descent. We talk, we meet, we discuss the issues that are important to the Caribbean. Listen, that doesn't even count Darren Soto, who I'm going to see tomorrow with the campaign, who's from Orlando, and he's of Puerto Rican descent, right? So there are members there. We have a Caribbean caucus. We meet, we have discussions. We want to be supportive of the issues of the Caribbean. The prime ministers are aware and they call on us. But Patricia, I want you to call me if you need me to.
Okay, please. Who can I get your information? Because I have a lot of things that I need to speak with you about. I fight for the—
Listen, you are really an Antigua and you just come right to the point, right to the point.
You know,
my office, I'm gonna put in the chat my office.
Okay.
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 Perfect. I love this.
I'll come and meet with you to get some assistance for the Caribbean community here in Atlanta.
Okay, and then please remember to get in touch with the Virgin Islands Association of Georgia, and I'll put you in touch with them as well.
Excellent. This is wonderful. This is wonderful. So as she puts her, she's going to slide her information into our DM, which is wonderful. And let's see, I think everyone here has asked their question. So our last thing, or, you know, what are some last encouraging, inspiring words that you would like to give us here in Georgia? And then I'll say in DeKalb County, especially, we actually are pretty much half of the population of people that are from the islands that are here. And so we're in the house. We are here. We are getting more and more active. And so what words do you have just of encouragement for us?
Well, you know, I'm just excited that you all have organized yourselves and that you're pushing for the Biden-Harris campaign. We know that not only will the Biden-Harris campaign support us because of the policies that they have, but because of the vice presidential pick, Kamala Harris, who recognizes her own Caribbean roots and is going to be keenly aware of the needs of the Caribbean. But I also particularly want to say to Georgia that, listen, it is the dream of not only the campaign, but of all of the members of Congress and the Democratic caucus to see Georgia turn blue. And I know that that's not going to happen unless Caribbean people come out. And I think that will be the shot in the arm to get African Americans, to get other Democrats, and to get others to see the power and the force of the Caribbean vote. Because let me tell you, you know, the pollsters and others are still going to be seeing what that looks like and who were the ones that came out and how did they come up, what demographic they came for. And when they recognize the Caribbean posse is up in the house, right? Caribbean Massive made it happen. That's the thing that I want to see. I want to be there on election night and the days after to be able to go to the talking heads and say that the Caribbean basin made this possible in the United States. And so God bless you all. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you all. I can't wait to see you all on the other side when we have Carnival again.
Yes.
Patricia, make sure I get an invite.
Sure, I'm gonna
be there, and I want to celebrate with you all. God bless you all, and thank you so much.
Thank you
we'll
so
have
much.
your grandma show.
Thank you. Thank you. And then you know what? Quick.
There you go. That's Patricia for you.
I'm gonna do a quick little selfie. So everyone pose your favorite pose. Let me do a selfie real quick. So 1, 2, 3. Oh, she's so cute. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
That was amazing. Oh my gosh. I feel very invigorated and very inspired. And I love how she roll called all the people that are of Caribbean descent in Congress or in the House. So that was really, really awesome. I feel really inspired. I got a whole new juice, going right now in my body.
We have to remember our own Donna McLeod.
Donna McLeod, exactly.
Yes.
Yes, she is the first. Yes, the first. She was actually with the first Jamaican who was. So yeah, we have to remember her as well.
Yes.
I'd like to say big up. So big up.
Big up all the way. Big up.
Big up. John. Big up, John.
Big up. So you know what's so funny too? The whole thing, when I was, Colin Powell was actually on a show and he was speaking about, he didn't necessarily say the Caribbean vote, but he spoke about people from, as immigrants and the power of so many immigrants. Because you have to remember too, like everyone, who's from here?
Right.
But he spoke about that. And he is a Jamaican as well. He is from the Caribbean. Family's Jamaican as well. And it's just one of those things that she was so right. Congresswoman Stacey said one thing that stood out to me a lot.
Okay.
She said what she would do and what she would tell the community leaders, the organizers, the people who are the advocates, the politicians, numbers. That's what you do. Numbers. I don't have to even convince y'all like that, because what I will do is say how much people is going to be there for you. You got to talk in those kind of terms. And I will take that away from this. And I can't thank you for putting on this amazing event.
Of course. I think this is so awesome. I'll just be candid about it. One of the things that I've definitely experienced, at different schools and whatnot, is that oftentimes when you do go to these Ivy League schools and these great schools, a good portion of the Black students that are there are people that are of island or African descent. And so I think that because that is a truth, our voice definitely does matter. And it's time for us to kind of come from the shadows, I think, as Wayne said, and to really activate our power and to activate our voices. Any other thoughts about our great Congresswoman and anything that stood out to you guys?
I just want to say thank you so much for having me in this panel. It meant a lot just to have a conversation with the Congresswoman and know that we can count on her and call on her, because I always wanted that.
I love it. And so then my last question to everyone, I think we have like 2 more questions left. We have a couple more minutes left in this, is when it comes to our elected officials, what are some things that they can do to improve your experience? So I feel like, Patricia, you had some experience with the elected to where they have not been supportive of your business, of your festival, even though it's been here for 33 years. So speak to us about that, and what do you want to say and what's important to you?
I think our vote counts. I don't want to go out there and give my vote to someone that I can't even have a conversation with. So I wanted that we should be able to go to our mayor, whoever is in charge, have a conversation with them. I know this year I had a group that had reached out to me and they were asking us to donate $100 to, so that we could talk to the Democrat leader if like from the Caribbean community and the African community, we wanted someone to support us. And I'm thinking, why is it that we have to give money just to have a conversation with someone that represents us?
Wow.
And we voted. So it's like you're getting that backlash all the time. Then it's like, for you to get in front of the mayor or someone to talk, you have to show up at a fundraiser, pay for a plate. I voted. Why is it that hard for us to have a conversation? So I would like it to be a way, whereas someone that represents the Caribbean community should be able to go and voice our concerns to those that represents us.
I love that. Wayne, any thoughts?
Great point there, Pat. Great point. You know, we often feel separated from those that are representing us, and that's a fact. It's one of the discouraging factors that Caribbean folks face. Let's face it, in the islands, you feel an intimacy with the political process. It's smaller. You can go shake the hand of the leader, like Congresswoman Plaskett said. You know, you can literally go rub shoulders with who's representing you. Here, it's more of this, it's almost an elitist kind of situation. So they're running and they're canvassing and everything, and then they're in this office. But then the lobbyists, the special interests, the people who fueled their campaign or who are more important in keeping them in office are the priorities. And so the challenge for us is, how can we forge and make ourselves count, make ourselves a factor? And that's where the connection, as Pat is saying, we need to be able to get that voice heard. How? You know, if we're gonna have to pay money to reach to the person that represents us. So there has to be some kind of movement, which is what I was asking. How can we influence something that happens within our community that reflects our value? And in return, when we show our value, we get back that value in terms of how things are done to us and for us and with us as a Caribbean community.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. We definitely, we definitely add so much flavor to the fabric of this country, to the fabric of this state, to the fabric of these counties. And, you know, we actually have been talking about, you know, ways to organize better so that we are able to have a bigger voice. Lador, you know, you're there shaking your hand.
Are you guys ready? Because I have the answer to this question.
What's the answer, girl?
I have the answer to this question.
What's the answer, girl?
I don't know if my fellow panelists that's on here know. I don't know if you guys knew, or I don't know what the case may be, but I'm gonna tell you something right now. I had the same conversation when I did that Bravo TV show, In a Man's World. We cannot wait for people to think that we need to be here. We have to drag our own chair and we put it at the table and we say, I am here. We run for office. That's what we do. We rally around a community person that you adore. We rally, we back someone who is involved. And what you do is you support them. You encourage them. You tell them to run for office. Because guess what? We're waiting here for someone to appear to think that we are important on their horse galloping through. Are you kidding me? It's not gonna happen. We don't have that time. It's not gonna happen. We need to take control and be a part of the decision making, of the policy making. And if it's not you, then it might be your sister, it might be your cousin, it might be your next door neighbor. Pick someone and make sure you have a representative, and you make sure that you help them and encourage them to go ahead and run for office. Say, guess what? We want to go get you qualified. What's the date? All right, let's sit down, let's think about it. I had 4 people on my team, and none of us really knew how to run for office. But you know what I did? Even though we did not know what exactly to do, I said, well, what's my experience? Okay, great. I took political science. Okay, that was basically one of my majors. What else experience do I have? I'm a PTA mom. I own 2 businesses in Sandy Springs. I have children that go to public school in this city. These are the type of things that you say, you know what, I'm not going to sit here and act like I have no type of these, let me tell you something. There's a lot of white men who run for office and they're not that smart. Okay, listen, I'm being honest. The whole thing about it is we sometimes think that it is going to be someone else that needs to come here and represent us. And how are we going to get included? And how are we going to sit here and then they take us seriously? And how are they? No. We have to be the person. We have to be our own savior in these type of situations. We rally behind someone or we run for office. Pat, you look like you run for office. Win, run for office. You guys both, not to mention you, and I'm like, you guys are, but I'm saying to you, at the end of the day, wait, I know you from everybody else who listens to you. You are celeb, you are people listen to, everyone knows exactly who you are. Let me tell you something about Miss Pat. Miss Pat, you make sure every single person in the Caribbean is out there waving their flag. That's independence, being proud, this is what I'm talking about. That's the power of a leader. That's the power of people who run for office, who have a certain type of following, who have a certain people will volunteer to say, let me make calls for you. Let me knock on doors for you. Let me go out there and give you a little bit of money. I only got $20 this week. Next week I'll have 40, maybe, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you something. We have to not rely on the other people to make us feel included. We need to run for office. And if not, pick somebody, rally behind them, and let's all make this happen. Because that's the only way it is. Strength is in numbers. And I'm telling you something, even though I did not win, because there's never been a person of color in Sandy Springs where I ran for office, I got 50% of the voters crease. Do you know what that means? 50% of the voters crease since the last election went there and came to a poll to vote for me.
Right.
And that helped Lucy Macbeth and Stacey Abrams in apartments over here in Sandy Springs and the whole entire North Atlanta. Let me tell you something, little does a lot.
Yep.
It does a lot. Kick up some dirt. You probably won't win the first time, probably won't win the second time, but I'm telling you right now, you will make a difference and you will help someone else to do it. That's what we need to do. We need to run for office. I'm done right now. I'm gonna mute myself. I'm muting.
So that is one option. We can definitely run for office. And I think, run for office. And if we all come together as a community, we can win that office and make sure that we win. Because if there's anybody that has the smarts, the creativity, and the ability to definitely win at office, because from my understanding, Colin Powell, he is a man that is of what? Jamaican descent. Kamala Harris, she is a woman that is of what? She is of Jamaican Caribbean descent. So it is very, very much so proven that when it comes to politics in this country, that we are, a excellent choice. So I love that. John, what are your thoughts? What can we do? What should we do?
So I can tell you about some personal experiences of mine, and I want to focus in on the legislative branch of government. At every level, we have a legislative branch of government that makes laws, whether that is at the municipal level, where they make the ordinances for the cities, whether it's the county commissioners, whether it's your state legislators, and then at the federal level, you have the U.S. House and you have the United States Senate. We all use government services every day. We drive on the roads, we use parks, we rely on police to protect us, we vote via the elections offices, and we see problems sometimes. And so what is it that legislative branch has to do? They have to provide oversight. They not only fund it, but after they fund it, they have to provide what's called oversight, and they have to monitor. So an early example of what I did in the situation where there was a problem with government, when I was serving in the military, my chain of command, I found they were being dishonest with me with a request that I had sent up the chain of command. So I contacted my congressman to hold them accountable. When I got out and I was getting my education's benefits, it took me half a semester to get my benefits. The GI Bill, which military members use to pay for school sometimes. And I called my congressman's office to give the VA some oversight. When you have an issue with a local police department, find out who funds that police department, and you ask them to provide oversight. If you're having voting issues, if you're seeing voting issues, you've got to ask your legislators to provide oversight. So whatever your issue is, if it's an immigration issue, if it's an issue with business licensing, where an agency is not treating you right, you should know who your legislative branch is, and you should ask them, hey, I know that you all fund this agency, you'll have oversight ability of this agency. Can you go hold them accountable and ask them why they're not performing up to task? And if they cannot perform that basic task, I'm going to defer back to Lador. It might be time for them to give up the spot, because they are here to make government perform better for us, to make that policy, not only make that policy, not only fund the government, but to make sure that the government is doing what it is supposed to do for us, which is serve, which is to be a service to all of us. And that includes the Caribbean American community. Everybody uses our government. No matter what economic status you are, you use our government. You use our roads, you use our parks, you rely on our public safety, you vote in our election system. So hold them accountable to how our government is performing.
That's great. I love that. I totally agree. And I love that you actually took the time to go and reach out to your congressman when you had issues, and you actually, held them accountable, and they were able to help out. So that is a good, because I think that oftentimes we don't go to them. We try to do everything ourselves, because we are a very independent, self-made type of culture. I think that we are used to just doing everything for ourselves. But I do believe that it is time for us to definitely hold our officials accountable for all the things that they promise, and for making our experience here better. So I totally agree with what everyone has said, and we are almost at time. So I want to give everyone just some last minute words, do some last minute shout outs, all that good stuff, and then we are going to close it out. I will start with Wayne.
Okay, well, first I wish to thank you for having me. Thanks for the referral.
Sorry.
All right. And it's been great, truly great to be a part of this conversation. I will maintain that our vote matters. It's one of those things that's yet to be really discovered. And I do agree with the point made that a big part of the onus is on us to, as she said, kick up some dust, start moving, start the ball rolling in terms of making sure we get to that point where it is recognized and treated as such. Thanks again for having me this evening.
Thank you so much, Wayne. Patricia, what are some last words that you have for us?
I just wanted to say thanks for having me on the panel. I really enjoyed it. I just want to say to everyone out there, go out and vote, 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 vote. Our life depends on it. This is the election that we all have to go out and vote. Don't do like 2016. Let's get out and vote. Remember, it's not about us. It's about the future generation. It's about our children, because they are the future. So go out and vote and let your vote count. If you don't vote, you don't have a voice.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, Pat. John Jackson, what are some words that you have for us?
I'm going to speak to those who have already voted. If you've already voted, I have a task for you, and that is to turn out your community. And a good way to do that is to go to www.decab, actually, forget the www, just go to decabdems.com/volunteer, sign up for a shift tomorrow, call our people, get them out to vote, make sure that they make a plan to vote for Tuesday. Tuesday is the final chance to vote. Make sure they know where their precinct is, get them to commit to a time, and you know, if you can do it on Sunday as well, we're going to need people doing this up till election day. So sign up for a shift so we can make sure we get everybody to the polls voting. Every vote's going to matter here because it is going to be a close race in Georgia. So your vote does matter.
Awesome. And then Lador, I know she is handling her kids as well. She is multitasking. Lador, any last words for us? I'm gonna give her a few minutes to come to the table. If not, because she has said some great words tonight. She said run for office. She said that y'all need to make sure that you are running for office so that we can see ourselves in our leaders. And that will inspire us, that will encourage us, and that will help us to work even harder. So I want to say thank you to all of our esteemed panelists. Thank you to the Congresswoman. Thank you so, so much for gracing us with your presence. And from DeKalb Young Democrats, you know, we are a group that is between 18 and 39, and our goal is to increase the young vote. And I'm proud to say that we have already done a great job of exponentially increasing that vote, but our goal is to not stop here, but to keep going and keep going and keep going. And so we look forward to also activating more of the young Caribbean vote as well that is here in our great state of Georgia. So again, thank you everyone. Visit our website, DeKalbYD.org, on Facebook, DeKalb Young Democrats, on Instagram, DeKalb Young Dems. We had some technical issues with it on Facebook, but we will post this. So we will get this Zoom video uploaded onto all of our pages so that you are able to see this great conversation with these great leaders here in Georgia. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a beautiful, blessed evening. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.